virtual land. This is Marcus Amaker, artist in residence at Gilliard Center and poet laureate of Charleston, and a dad and a husband. We're here for another episode of Raising the Volume, and I'm excited because a friend of mine is up on stage. Her name is LaVanda Brown, and she's with the YWCA. So just like with every other Raising the Volume, all of these conversations are very much free-flowing. We don't really talk about what we're going to do on this, but it's more of just a conversation just so you can get to know us better and figure out all the good stuff that's happening in our community, particularly from Black women and from people who are doing amazing things here. So, LaVanda, hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to do all this. I know you, like me, doing a lot of stuff, so it means a lot to me that you've taken the time to do this.
Absolutely. It was a shock and an honor to be invited.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So the funny thing is that you initially said no.
You're
like, that sounds cool, but I'm busy or whatever, but so I just kept bugging you.
You did. You pushed me. You pushed me to, because I'm like, I'm not a poet, not necessarily. I'm not an artist. What does he want to talk to me about?
Thank you for answering the email. I think I just want to start with what your job is, and we'll just kind of go backwards from there. I guess just speak on it as if people don't know who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first of all, I feel like my calling is to empower people to be their best selves. And that's something that I do within my family. It's something that I've done in my career, 20 years in Savannah, ending and preventing homelessness. So the opportunity to move to Charleston and direct the YWCA, to me, felt like an opportunity to take that empowerment and move it towards a community.
Cool.
So I'd worked with individuals for a long time, and looking at the opportunity to come to the YWCA was also a moment in time where I thought, maybe not.
Okay.
But being pushed, the spirit pushed me, and I had friends who pushed me, and so I jumped out on faith, packed my bags, and moved to a new community to work with community. And so as Executive Director of the YWCA, my job is to eliminate racism and empower women. So it fits very much in line with what I feel my calling is. So this is my current assignment within that calling.
So what compelled you to eventually come here? Because I know that there's a lot of challenges everywhere, but especially here. So what was? It was
probably, so I'm very, I said that sort of led by the Spirit. I have to feel things. Yeah. And so I came to Charleston for a day. I had never been to Charleston. I think I may have brought my children to the aquarium here, 15, 20 years ago. But as I was going through the interview process, I just came to Charleston, and it felt like home, like just driving around, seeing the buildings, talking to folks, people. It felt very comfortable. Yeah. And I was 48 at the time, I think, maybe 40. Yeah, I was 48 at the time. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to make a major life change, I might as well do it now. Like, when else am I going to do it? So I'm thinking, at that time, my youngest son had just turned 18. Unfortunately, over the course of 2 years prior to that, I had lost both my parents and my grandparents. And so there was really nothing to keep me in Savannah. Yeah, right. I had been successful in my career. I felt really good about the work I had been doing with the homeless community. And again, this was an opportunity to work with a larger, broader community. Yeah. And I had watched how Charleston responded to the Mother Emanuel tragedy. Yeah. And for an organization whose mission was to eliminate racism, I felt like now was the time.
Wow. So whenever I look at your mission, I think that's really amazing, because we want you to do it. We want you to eliminate racism. But how do you approach that? Especially in this environment where there's a lot of organizations who have chosen to start really looking at these issues and maybe being active toward it as well. But I'm seeing a lot of organizations don't know what to do, and we're in 2020. and there is a blueprint there. So how do you approach that, eliminating racism?
Yeah, so we start with awareness. You know, I think, I know for me, even, you know, Black woman raised in the South, you think you know everything. You know, you think you understand racism. You may understand your experience, but so we start with awareness, and we have for the last 4 years now partnered with the Racial Equity Institute out of North Carolina. And so what they have helped us do is walk people through the historical context of how race and racism and the intentionality of it in this country, and what that means for us even today. You know, none of us were here when that system was designed, yet we are all benefactors of it, whether we're benefactors or victims of that system. Right. So we go through awareness first. We really spend a lot of time on understanding the historical context and understanding the disparities. And they're not, you know, the statistics from the 60s aren't different from the Avery report from 2015.
Yeah, right on.
They're very much the same. So we have to understand that too, and understand that this is still a problem. And yes, the civil rights movement made tremendous strides, and people died and bled for where we are today, but we still, the outcomes still say that systemic racism continues to be a problem. So awareness, analysis, and action. Those are the steps that we take.
Yeah, that's awesome. The Racial Equity Institute, and my wife took that.
Yes.
And I'll never forget the conversations I had with her when she came home from that, and was very emotional. I need to take it.
Yeah, we want to get you in there.
Yeah, I would love to.
I had to send my husband through it as well.
Yeah,
because it's a conversation that is hard to have with folks that hadn't quite gone through it just yet. So yeah, it definitely would. I'd love to welcome you to attend.
Yeah, because I just, from what she was telling me, just the evidence and the stats and all that stuff that we inherently sort of know because we've seen the effect of all this stuff. Right. But to actually find out where it came from and how it's being implemented in different areas, it's really interesting. It's almost, I think a lot of people, and this is just an opinion of mine, but I think a lot of people still think of racism as this sort of crazy esoteric thing that is happening and nobody knows how to stop
like the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not the boogeyman.
That is perfect. And actually realize that it's almost, you can almost treat it like stats. Like you can really look at stats and figure out what's going on. But getting people to change those systematic ways is really the struggle.
Yeah,
you know?
it is. And I think a lot of times people are cautious or leery about coming to the Racial Equity Institute because they think that they're gonna be called a racist, or that we're gonna dig into their personal, lives about. It's not about anyone's personal bigotry. Not the Racial Equity Institute. There are other trainings that dig more into your personal opinions and views, but we're wanting to talk to people who can change policy, change practice. How, your personal bigotry and all those things, there are other trainings, and we offer other opportunities for sensitivity and other things like that, but this particular training is about changing the system. And it was intentionally designed, so it's going to take that same intense intentionality to undo it. Yeah,
that is great. And I'm sure you all can edit this out if you want, but it's unfortunate that, we have a president who doesn't believe in that stuff. Absolutely. Or a administration that doesn't believe in that, because I think it's so important. It's just so important. And then, awareness. We are aware of so many things that we sort of pivot our life around and just being sensitive towards certain things. Yeah. But this is still the thing. Like, people are still willing to hold on to this ignorance. It's really interesting to me. Talk to me about the beginnings, I guess. Like, when were you first aware that you wanted to change lives or affect community or things like that?
That's an interesting question, because somewhere around, so my parents were civil rights activists. So my father was one of 18 students that were chosen by the Savannah NAACP to integrate the schools in Savannah when he was in high school.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, he went to Vietnam.
Okay.
So talk about, I know, and he would say things like, that was just way too much for any, one young person. So under 20 years old, he integrated the schools and then went off to Vietnam.
Jeez.
So, yeah, and there's a whole story about, how that eventually mentally and physically played itself out. But we were raised to care. I was also raised in a very small, probably could fit our church on this stage, very small Pentecostal church. So you couldn't hide from leadership. Like, everybody had to do something. Yeah. When we were doing food bags or blanket drives or speaking on programs, things like that, you had to. So when we went out to do street ministries, as we would call it, it's my parents' voter registration drives, things like that. It's just what we did. Like, I don't know that I had to decide that that's what I would do. And then I went off to college and didn't do well for the first year and came home. Which was the same year that Denise Huxtable went to college. Oh. And so it was very hard for me to watch her at college, and I was back at home. Yeah. So I got myself together pretty quickly.
Thank God for that show, right?
Exactly.
That's a trip.
I got myself together pretty quickly and went back to college. Okay. And I went to all-women's college in Macon, Georgia, Wesleyan College. And so I went right back to where I, had started, because I had something to prove. Mm-hmm. And my mom spent that year that I was at home, going to community college in Savannah, spent that time just walking me through the handbook and the courses and the majors and talking to me about what I wanted to do. Like, what are you good at? Like, these are the few courses you passed. So maybe the humanities and things like that are up your alley. And so I went back and majored in psychology and sociology. Okay. And that just kind of it fit with my personality and with my gifts. Yeah. And then the rest is history.
Clearly, yeah. I think you've been doing well, and I can speak on it personally because we work together on a few things, and the poetry slam is really great. And
I love it.
The breakfast and all that stuff. It's just it's nice to be aligned with an organization that I know gets it, and I know is busy doing a bunch of stuff, but you still make all this stuff work, and I think that it's very impactful.
Thank you. Well, I have to thank people like you. Yeah. I have to say that I have like a staff of 5. And so what we do with the MLK breakfast and the What Women Bring luncheon and all the programs we have could not be done without people like you who are dedicated to your role as a volunteer. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've always wanted to really do community work, and I can thank Charleston and the inequities that I've seen in Charleston for sparking that. Because when I moved here, I was kind of just cool with just writing poems in my room and just chilling. But then I'm realizing, there's a lot of work needs to be done in this community, like the #1 city and all that stuff. Like, a lot of work needs to be done.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious, and we talked about this prior to the taping a bit, but especially for an organization that's doing work that people are already anxious about, or some people are, to switch to doing virtual things like that. That size says a lot.
Yes, it's been quite a trip.
Yeah. Tell me about that, or how that's been going.
Yeah, so it was, we all thought, I think it was like March 13th or 15th when, we got the orders to like go home, basically. So we all were like, okay, I'll take a few files, I'll, take, a couple of notes and take my laptop home and, enjoy a couple of weeks at home, working from home. And then weeks turned into months. So, initially we just paused everything. We're like, okay, we'll cancel this, we'll cancel that. And then after about 3 weeks, we were like, this thing could this could be a while. So like, what do we do? And then George Floyd was murdered. And that changed a lot of things. One, our phones that don't often ring were ringing off the hook. Just a variety of things. How can I help? What can I do? Are you okay? and I wasn't.
Wow.
I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And so the first thing we decided to do was just have a Zoom conversation with white leaders on how and what they could do, because that was the number one question.
Yeah.
So we just said, we don't really know how to do this Zoom thing, but we're gonna just do it. We need to talk. We need for them to have a conversation. And so we started with that. Then we systematically moved all of our programs to virtual platforms. And Racial Equity Institute is now virtual. We did yesterday, Tuesday and Wednesday. We had our second iteration of that virtual. Great 2 days, still same format, but very much virtual, still small groups, still, around the screen, as they call it, discussions.
Yeah. Wow.
Y Girls Code online now. Our She Strong girls are meeting online. They're just now starting to do some socially distanced, like in-person meetings. They like outdoor coffee houses and things like that. So we have figured it. We've figured it out, and we have staff meetings virtually, one-on-ones, often, and weekly group meetings. So
yeah.
But it was hard because we're so used to being together.
Yeah.
We're so used to seeing each other and watching verbal cues or unverbal cues and body language and being able to check in with folks and saying, that topic, seemed to bother you a little bit. You want to talk about it. But having very experienced trainers and people that are willing to be open, we've been able to do the same thing virtually. So,
yeah. That is awesome. Yeah, I definitely relate to the whole the visual cues and body language and stuff like that, because doing workshops with students now is really tough for me. Well, I shouldn't say tough. It's just a challenge, and I've just had to pivot the way that I do things. But one of the things that I love is not the time that we're writing, but the time that people aren't writing. Because you can kind of figure out why. You could walk around to somebody and see what's going on.
Yes.
So now when that happens, somebody's screen might go, or somebody's doing something else. I'm like, how do I do this? Like a little chat with them might not make it work. But I just, I initially definitely pushed back against it, and there's still a lot of that. But now I'm realizing, okay, whenever we are able to comfortably be in the same room together, now we know that we can do virtual stuff too. So maybe adding on virtual things as well as what we are used to, has strengthened us. So
I think for us it has strengthened. It's expanded our reach too.
Cool.
So we have several courses right now online. Own the Room, which is a public speaking and empowerment program for women, and we have a Women's Empowerment 360, which is an entrepreneurship, and we have women taking it from Atlanta, Miami, that wouldn't, people that have watched us online and followed us online and, are like, oh, these are great programs. And now they're like, oh, can I register for this? And I'm like, you sure can.
Nice, yeah. They're like, please, yeah.
Please do. So it's been, that's been really exciting for me to see addresses and zip codes, that are different just from Charleston. So I'm like, you're right. Even when we can be in person, I think we'll definitely know that we can also do things virtually and expand our reach. Yeah,
and hopefully organizations can hire somebody to just run virtual things,
absolutely,
like that,
absolutely.
So it can open up jobs. Yeah, I think that could be cool. What about you do people might not know? You know what I mean? Like people know about your job, and all that. But is there, for me, for example, I love Star Wars. Everybody knows that. But I listen to punk rock sometimes. So what is that for you? What is it?
Well, definitely, I like country music. I'm a Blake Shelton fan. People may not
cut the tape. Cut the tape. It's time to.
People may not know that or may not like that.
Blake Shelton?
I do.
All right, cool.
all the good country greats.
Okay. Just
I
got
listen to country, and actually traveling from Savannah to Charleston, if you're only listening to the radio, there's very little to listen to for about an hour.
That is awesome. Wow. So, I never would have thought that.
Yes. So I'm a grandmother of 2. I actually just got gifted a granddaughter. She's about 10 days old.
Wow.
So I'm excited about that. Can't wait to hit that road one more time. Yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yes, she's beautiful. And
a grandmother, like anyway.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I just and I love my faith is very important to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't throw that out there. I think people who know me just know it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of my foundation, and it's where I lay all the heavy stuff. Like I can't do this work and not have somewhere to put it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest thing about me. And I guess I'm still a newlywed. I've been married about 2 years now.
Okay, yeah.
Got married right in the middle of MLK 2019.
Totally a newlywed still, yeah. That is a trip. Blake Shelton?
Yeah.
Can we? Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Trisha Earwood?
Yeah. Okay, all right.
We can keep going.
So I do Bluegrass magazine. I design a magazine. It's a national magazine. And I've learned a lot about bluegrass and country artists. It's more on the bluegrass, like folk side.
Yeah, my granddaddy loved bluegrass.
Nice, yeah. So I definitely have an appreciation for that. And also realizing that the banjo was started by Black folks. Like, it's really interesting to hear the history behind all that
There's
stuff.
a lot of history, particularly around music. And my friend Catherine would just kill me if I didn't mention that the kazoo was created by an enslaved
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of history around music, particularly with our folks. So yeah, I think for me, I think we own all music.
Yeah, there's nothing really that we can't. I mean, even because I love electronic music and instrumental electronic music.
Like house music?
Yeah, it's basically like EDM or techno.
Okay.
Sort of trip hop type of stuff too, because I make a lot of that music. But then you look at even somebody like Stevie Wonder, who was using Moogs to do everything that is an instrument in the hands of somebody else.
Yeah.
It's sort of like robotic, electronic, and in the hands of him, it's soul. So there's so much there that I love about music. I think it's great.
Yeah. Cool.
I guess we'll kind of close. This might be a heavy question, but do you have hope for the future, or what are your thoughts about where things are headed?
That is a great closing, because that is something that my friends and I have a group of friends that we, particularly after what happened with the murder of George Floyd, we started this Friday call where we just talk to each other. Just no judgments, just talk. Sometimes we talk work, what can we do? Sometimes we just talk politics, whatever, kids, whatever.
Yeah.
And someone said, and I had to post it on my wall where my eyesight is, to maintain hope. And that is one of the agreements. It is actually the final agreement that we make with folks when we're starting the Racial Equity Institute. We go through about 8 things.
Okay.
That we want people, of course, to be respectful, let everyone tell their own story, that kind of thing. But maintain hope is the thing that I have to remind myself, because it gets really hard. And just when you think you're making a few steps forward, you get knocked down, as you said, the administration and things that really shouldn't be obstacles get in our way.
Yeah.
When we're just trying to educate people, just trying to sensitize people. So for me, I do have hope. Sometimes I lose hope. I mean, I'm just human. So there are days that I just don't want to get out of bed, because it's just like, if today is going to be like yesterday.
Yeah.
After Ruth died, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that was a hard day to get out of bed, because I knew what was coming.
Yeah.
But luckily I got out, I sat at my desk, and the sign that I had posted just a week before said maintain hope. And so I have to. That's what is gonna keep me getting out of bed every day.
Okay.
is that I have to have hope, because I have to spread that hope to my Friday calls. You know, we have to keep each other in check. So if one of us is falling down, then the other three of us have to pick that sister up.
Cool.
And say, you got to maintain hope. Cool. So I do.
Yeah. I go in and out of it. I think that what's amazing, what's happening right now, as much as I complain about social media and the addictive nature of it, which is definitely true, it has mobilized a lot of people, no pun intended, where especially younger students who I've met, like there's a level of consciousness that and awareness that I didn't have when I was their age, and even, I mean, it's been amazing to watch, and I'm excited about that when a lot of those people are able to vote and are voting and can create communities. But then I realized, like we're all sort of in our own bubble as well. So there's a lot of people who don't feel this way. But yeah, I do go in and out of hope, but for the most part, I feel good. You know, it's all about that policy change, though. I think that that's the most important thing, and I'm glad that you're focused on that, because I think that's a thing that a lot of us need to really think about, and it's the unsexy part of all this stuff.
It is.
You know, we could write songs and do all these shows and concert for hope and all that stuff, but you know, like, people need to vote.
People need to vote.
Yeah, that's really important.
And you need to know who you're voting for. You need to know what they believe in, what they voted for in the past. You know, where their head is now. Because sometimes, I mean, of course, 15 years ago, I don't know. My views then weren't the same as they are now. So you don't have to hold people accountable for everything they've done, you know, in the past. But at least, what have they done this administration? What have they done their term? You know, what have they done recently? Where's their head at? Where are they putting their time and their energy and their money? Yeah,
and it's really almost funny to me. All of this is all just about making sure that this country lives up to its promises of, you know, people are created equal. That's literally it.
It is literally, that's all it is.
That's literally, I mean,
just it.
I mean, it's written there in paper, so
it's written there in paper, and it is simple, but it has become and been made to be so complicated. Yeah, it's a trip. So yes, please vote. Please vote.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to?
No, I just want to thank you for creating this space. I've watched some of your other ones, and so I think that, I mean, this is visionary for you, I think.
Thank you. Thank
you for creating this space.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you to the Gilliard Center for allowing us to have fun on this beautiful stage here. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Raising the Volume.